Okay. So we're talking about Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu was upset that his generation was closing their eyes, right? And he says about them, "Ein ish nicham al ra'asai." No man is nicham. What does it say? Nicham regrets. No man relents. Okay, regrets. Ein ish nicham al ra'asai leimar kuloi shov b'mertusam. They all follow their course like they're running kisus shoitev, like a horse racing headlong, b'milchama, right? A pursuing horse in war, right? So that's what he compares them. Yirmiyahu compares his generation to a war horse, to a running, hyped up war horse, right? They were just running, galloping forward in a way of their habit, and their usual ways, without giving them any time to analyze, right? To analyze their actions and their ways. And so they were falling into destruction, into evil, without even seeing it. Okay? Right? So, guys, so far so good, right? So everything's pretty clear.
They're not marching so far,
right?
So fast.
So look around and ask, right? This ability, right? This meta ability of the human being to look back and say, hey, how is this? What is this? Should I do it? Right? That's a human characteristics, and if we don't do it, we have intentional blindness. Okay. Now this is one of these famous paragraphs. In truth, this is one of the principal tachbulos, that is, stratagems of the Yetzer Hara, right? V'armosai, and his trickery. Lehachbid avoidosai, in order to increase, to make it heavy, avoidosai, his service, bitmidus, constantly alibois bnei ha'odam, on the hearts of man. Ad shelo yishor lehem revach, so that they should have no revach, no space, right? His boinein, and to contemplate, his stakel, and to look be'eze derech hem holchem, in what ways they are walking. Ki yodeya, because he knows, the Yetzer knows, she'ilulei hoyu somim libum kimat kot al derchehem, for they would only allow themselves just minor self-analysis on their ways. Vaday, certainly, shemiyad hoyu maschilim lehinochim maseim, they would instantly begin to relent from their actions. And their regret would go umizgaberes, and strengthen behem at shehoyu oizum achet lagamri, and eventually they would leave this sin altogether. Right? So, I mean, we're very familiar. Modern person is very, very familiar with this thing. Right. And so you have no time to really, can't stop and think. Stop and think. Right? Stop and think. Again, Baruch Hashem for Shabbos, that we do sometimes have stop and think, but of course with kids, okay, the problems are well known. So, fine.
Go gather straw.
Right. So that's the next part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And this is kind of the part of the advice, the atzas, the strategy of Parai, the evil. She'omar, that he said, Tichbad ha'avaido hala anashim, strengthen or make heavy the workload on the men, right? Shoyim eskavein, because his intention was there should be no space for them to give their hearts, right, to think or contemplate, or that they should think of a strategy against him. Right, his whole effort was to disturb their hearts, mikol his boinus, from any contemplation. How? Through the force of continuous work and labor without interruption. Right? Similarly, that is the Yetzer Hara mamash al bnei ha'adam, upon people. Ki yish milchamahu, because he is a professional warrior, melumid bar mimois, he's very trained in trickery. And it's impossible to escape from him. Except with also using great wisdom. I'm sorry. So if you want to escape from him, you need great wisdom, and great hashkaf of see, they translate over here as foresight, but it just means, I guess, foresight. Foresight is good. Hashkaf, okay. But this is what the Navi is crying. And he's saying, "Simu levavchem al derechechem," place your hearts upon your ways. And Shlomo Melech says in his wisdom, "Al titen sheina leinecha," do not give sleep to your eyes, utenuma lavapecha, and sleep to your what are they called, eyelids. Hinotzel ketzvi miyad. You should escape like a deer, and it continues from a hunter's hand, and like a bird from the grip of a snare. Right? That's the pasuk. The pasuk says, don't sleep, right? But run away like a bird from a trap. And our sages said, "Kol hasom archoisav b'olam hazeh," somebody who weighs out his ways, in this world, zoiche v'roye b'yishuasa shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He will be zoiche, and he will see the salvation of Hashem. Okay. So far, so good, right? So,
weights out his weights, meaning evaluates what he does.
Okay, so meaning. Okay, I mean, we'll see greater detail exactly what he means. He will specify this, but the point is, again, breaking the habit. Breaking the habit requires you to stop and think, right? Breaking the habit requires you to stop and think. Don't just do it. Okay, he will explain there's different, right? Meaning when I'm about to do an action, I'm going to say, speak this out. When I'm about to do an action, I should ask myself, hey, should I do this or not? Right? So that's in the moment of action, I ask myself, should this action be done? There's another, just forget about this particular local action. There should be time set aside in thinking about globally, where am I going? What's my, am my general actions, right, general behavior, my general lifestyle is directed towards the goals that I described in chapter 1. So that's another, again, stop and think, meaning just not in the heat of the moment when I have to decide yes or no, just on a regular afternoon when I got nothing to do, time to reassess my existence. Right? Good. Now it's simple to him. Listen to these lines. It's simple. Even if a person watches over himself, now it's not possible for a person to save himself, if not that Hashem helps him. Because the Yetzer Hara is very strong. As it says in the pasuk, Rasha looks out for the tzaddik, and seeks to kill him. Hashem, however, Hashem will not leave him in his hand. Right over there, the Rasha over here in the Chachamim Darshan, that the Rasha over here is referring to the Yetzer Hara. Right, the Yetzer Hara is called the Rasha. So Tzeifer Rasha or Tzaddik, the Yetzer Hara is trying to capture the tzaddik, right? And it wants him to die, in his meaning to make him sin, and so he should die. But Hashem lo yazvena biyodei. Right? Hashem will not leave him in his hand. Why? Because because if a person is watching over himself, because then Hashem helps him, and then he could be saved from the Yetzer Hara. Avolim einem mefakech al atzmo. Of course, the reverse. If he's not watching over himself, vaday sheHaKadosh Baruch Hu lo yifakech alav. So certainly Hashem will not watch over him. Right? If a person is not careful about his own affairs, so Hashem has no reason to protect him. Also, if a person is careful, to the best of his abilities, he's trying to be careful about his affairs, so then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give him give him help to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Right? Because if he's not careful, if he has no pity on himself, meaning who should have pity on him? This is what our rabbis said. Anybody who has no deya, which means no knowledge or discernment, is what they translate over here. Anybody has no deya, right? No intelligence. Osir l'rachim alav. It is forbidden to have mercy on him. Okay, this is one of those famous phrases of Chazal that are very difficult to understand, right? That kol mishem boideya, anybody who has no intelligence, osir l'rachim alav. You have no reason to have mercy on him. Forbidden to have mercy on him. V'hushim omru, and this is also included in the statement of Hillel. Im eina ni li, if I'm not for myself, mi li, who should be for me? Okay, so that's it. That's the end of this chapter. So let's first. So there's a few statements of Chazal, the way he brings them, that are very difficult to understand. Okay, so let's just go back to the one. Right, he said before, uposhuthu. This is poshut to him. Right, this is not something that he didn't. I don't know why it's poshut to him, but it's poshut to him. Even if a person watches over himself, he has no ability, he has no ability to be saved from the Yetzer Hara. So that seems to be very strange. No? The whole point of Yetzer Hara is to challenge you in order to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Comes the Ramchal and says, no, did you know that you have no chance? The Yetzer Hara is a heavyweight championship, and you're a featherweight dude, and you stand no chance. So, what's the point then? Then doesn't the whole creation of the Yetzer Hara is for me to beat him up? It's just it's my sparring partner. It's not my right. So what's happening here? Right? What is happening? And this is poshut to him. This is simple to him that I have no chance against him.
So he wants you to rely upon him for this battle.
Right. So first of all, one possible answer is that, hey, maybe originally, when Hashem created Adam Arishon, in the original plan, maybe Yetzer Hara was defeatable, right? But post Eitz Hadas, right? Maybe okay. So then you fed the beast. Now you can no longer. Now he's even stronger than you because you fed him. So that's one option. Another option is what you're saying. It's not that he's indefeatable. It's that he's indefeatable without Hashem's help. But the master plan is that you have to rely on Hashem's help in order to beat him. Right, meaning meaning a lot of it is you just start watching yourself, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of the rest. Right, but if you're not going to start, okay, so that's something. There's a Pachad Yitzchak that speaks about this, and I already just looked.
Isn't there Hashem saying that Yitzchak has upper hand, but it's defeatable? Don't say it's undefeatable. In where? I don't remember already. That's after after Adam. It says that it's Yitzhara, or even translation of easily you got to defeat it.
Right, but he's not talking about the mechanics of it over there. He's just saying he's just saying that he's saying that basically that you live in the physical world,
Yeah.
right? You were born into a physical world. You have this Yetzer Hara. Your most of your life is physical. So really, also he says you have no chance. You have no chance. Then he said, no, I think it's actually quite dramatic. It's quite dramatic. And then he says, but by some magic, he says, you're going to do certain actions and you'll be able to pull yourself above these things. Right? Hashem will tell you, do this in this situation, and somehow that's going to transform this situation into something spiritual. But in reality, you're in a hopeless state. So in a way, I'm not sure if it's so contradictory. It's a little different because you're right, over there, right, I don't know. But over there, he's not focusing on the armimus, right? Over here, he talks about that Yetzer Hara has two parts to it. It's very wise, and it's also very tricky.
Yeah.
Right? Those are two separate things. Because the truth is, I mean, who's the Yetzer Hara? The Yetzer Hara is us. It's not like it's some external foreign animal, right? Meaning it's us. So every time so basically he has, if we're in a war, he has a spy on the, right, on the military council, right? So every time I think of a new way to fight him, he knows about it, right? And so I think I'm fooling him, but I'm really not, because I am him, right? So it's really a scary thing because we find this all the time. People fool themselves into thinking that there's A, but in reality, anybody who has open eyes and sees it from the outside, they see that they're not A, they're very much B. I mean, all of us, this is us, right? This is us. Just some of us are a little more blatantly hypocritical, some of us a little more subtly hypocritical, but essentially what we are. So the fact that we can fool ourselves is the siyata d'shmaya. I'm not sure. There's a beautiful mimer and it just totally poof disappeared. There's a beautiful mimer from Bachtitzchut on this piece, which is okay. I owe you. Mm-hmm. We discussed this before. I just like. Okay, so over here there's a pshat. They bring down over here a different pshat. The pshat is that really the Yetzer Hara has to be, meaning in a certain meaning they're kind of twisting it on its head, and they're saying that the only way the Yetzer Hara has a chance of succeeding is if it's very, very, what's the word, talented in getting you. Because if it wasn't so talented, then it would definitely have no chance. Because then it's obvious if a person would see even a little bit of the benefit of the mitzvahs, right, of the positive commandments, and he'd have no shaykhs from falling into the negative commandments. It's only because, okay, right, I understand, right? Okay, fine. Time, continue. Okay, we'll start. Right, so again, let's just do this. So this was chapter 2. Oh wait, we didn't finish. Hold on, we got more. Then we have this. So that's one statement. So for Rosh Tzaddik, right? That this Yetzer Hara is the superpower. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is Kol Mishi Ein Boy. Kol Mishi Ein Boy Deya Osul Rachim Alav. Right? Anybody who has no sense, it's forbidden to have pity on him. Right? So again, so the way he explains it, how do we understand it in his context? In his context, we understand that he's saying if a person is not taking care of himself, then you don't have to take care of not only you don't have to, sorry, it's forbidden for you to take care of him. Your job to take care of others is only as an assistant to him taking care of himself. But if he's not taking care of himself, that's how he seems to be envisioning the word deya, right? Kol mishem boy deya, right? In other words, not like we would understand, meaning clearly, let's say you have a person who has no intelligence. If we translate deya literally, a person who has no intelligence, right? That would be cruel. I mean, that would be probably the cruelest thing. You have no mercy on a person who has no intelligence. I mean, who else should you have mercy on if not on the people who have no intelligence, right? So clearly that's weird. So meaning, Maharal understands when it says no intelligence, meaning self-imposed intelligence, right? Meaning a person capable of intelligence, but he has no intelligence because he's not using his intelligence. So you have no reason to use his intelligence for him. He doesn't, right? Meaning, so in a way, the person has a test and he doesn't study, right? And he wants you to give him the answers. It's dumb, right? Also, we're forbidden to have mercy on him, right? He needs to study for himself. He needs to study for himself, and then you could help him. And you could help him get there. But so that's the way the Maharal is learning. Right? Kol misheim boideya osur l'rachem alav. The other way of learning the Chazal that I remember hearing is that right, the key word here is l'rachem. Right? There's chesed and there's rachmanos. There's chesed and there's rachamim. Right? Chesed is kindness, and rachamim is mercy. Mercy implies also a sense of judgment. Right? What does that mean? That means that if I have my kid comes to me and he says, can I have candy? Right? So Chesed says, sure, you could have candy. Of course, you can have as much as you want. Rachamim would say, I'd love to give you candy, but why don't you first do this homework or study this, then I give you candy. Right? There is a request, and then there's also a reward. Right? There's a request and a reward. So rachamim implies a din, a sense of judgment. Meaning there's a request also, not just a reward. So somebody who has no deya, right? You can only have rachamim, this twofold method of making a person grow. You could only do that with somebody who's a bar das, who has das, right? So a person who's on the level, you could start saying, okay, if you do this, I'll give you this. If you do this, right, you can have rachamim. Mashenkein, on a person who has no deya, it's forbidden to have rachamim on him. What should you do? You should have chesed with that person. You don't start asking him, oh, okay, if you right? So some people who have no deya, and it could be individuals. You could have a very intelligent person, but in like you said, in the blind spots, in particular aspect, he has a blind spot. So he has a blind spot, as if he has no deya for that, in that situation. So for those people, we just do chesed. Unlimited chesed without any strings attached. Rachamim implies strings attached. Okay, okay, and but the Ramchal seems to be understanding it in a different way, again, in the opposite way. Kol mishem badei is not somebody who has no ability. He has ability. He just refuses to use his ability. So you have no reason to have mercy on him, right? And that's what he's saying. The same idea of ein ani li. If I'm not for myself, meaning if I'm not going to take care of myself, mi, who will be for me? Now, again, this is Ramchal's classic situation where he takes the words of Chazal and he turns them a little bit upside down. What do I mean by that? How do you generally understand if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? You generally understand it. Listen, remember, Johnny, you got to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody's going to take care of you. Right? So it's a statement of reality of the world that, go take care of yourself. Right? Ramchal is saying it's more than just a statement of reality of the world. He's saying if you don't take care of yourself, nobody's allowed to take care of you. Right? Right? If I'm ein ani li, right? If I'm not going to be for myself, Mili, who will be for me? No. In other words, nobody will be for me. Nobody's allowed to be for me. Right? So, does he mean that it's exactly the same idea as in the previous statement? He's saying you could see that the reason why, again, simply speaking, maybe somebody will be for me, but it would be dumb to rely on somebody who will be for me, right? So therefore, I should be for myself. He's saying more than that. He's saying, nobody will be for you because, nobody's allowed to be for you. People will only help you if you're willing to help yourself. If you're not willing to help yourself, they're forbidden to help you. Okay, fine. Moving on. So that's the first. So the first chapter again just gave us an outline of what the midah of zehirus is. Again, what's the midah? The midah is break the habit, stop and think, and therefore reflect and reflect, right? So now he's going to drill it down to some of its details. Beber chelki has zehirus. Let's go into the chelokim, right? Into the parts of zehirus. Okay, not details, right? Again, let's just understand. There's two words when it comes to, right? There's prat, and then there's chelak. There's prat and there's chelak. I think we discussed this in the beginning of Derech Hashem. There's prat and there's chelak. Prat means, there's a detail. There's a general principle, and it has a detail, right? So the general principle, I don't know, don't do work on Shabbos. Don't do work on Shabbos. The general principle. The detail is, okay, if I turn on the light, is that considered doing work or not, right? Then there's something called chelak, which means a division. So here's the general principle, and it divides into categories. Here are the categories, the four subcategories of this principle. So when he says, so we got beber chelki as zehirus, we're not talking about the details of zehirus, we're talking about the categories of zehirus. Okay? So therefore, if somebody wants to be watchful over himself, so there are two hashkafos, two looks or two contemplations that are necessary. And this is what I mentioned really before. Achas, first one is she's born in Mahu. First, he has to contemplate what is the true good that a person must choose, must select, right? Which was the first chapter. V'haraha amitin was the true evil sheyonus mimenu that he has to escape from. V'hashniya, and then once he gets the general map. Right, the general map. So then, then he can do the second thing. The actions that he's doing, lirois, he should look imheim miklal hatoy miklal hara, or if they are from the side or the general principle of the good or the principle of the bad. And again, that also divides further. B'shas ma'isa at the time of the action, b'shas ma'asa, and not at the time of action. What does that mean? B'shas ma'isa, in the time of actions, right? In the heat of the moment. Shelo yasa shum ma'isa, he should not do any action. Mebli sheyishkol oisoi b'moiznei zois hayidia. He should not do a thing unless he weighs it out on the scales of this idea, of this knowledge, right? In other words, the first step is I decide what is good and what is not good. Once I have that clearly drilled into my head, what is good and what is not good, every time I do something, I weigh it out and I say, does it fit or doesn't it not fit, right? What choice do I make in this situation? Right? So any action, right? Any action. Again, any action, according to Ramchal, should be weighed out. Does it fit into the master plan or not? Okay, fine. V'shloi b'shas ma'isa, but the person should also have the same contemplation, not at the time of ma'isa, not at the time of action, right? When he's off the action, shiyal lefon of zichron klal ma'asav, he should reassess all of the memory of all of his actions. V'yishkol oisom, and he should weigh them out. In other words, he should memory. Okay, let's see what have I done so far? What do I do? What do I usually do in this situation? How do I treat my kids? How do I treat my wife? Is this right? Is this wrong? Does it fit with my philosophy on child raising, or does that not fit with my philosophy on child raising? Right? You weigh them out. Weigh them out in the scales of this balance, Lira is to see ma yesh bom mara, what particles do they have that are ra, leman yidche oiso, in order to cut it out and remove it, uma min hatoiv, and what is good, lehasmid bo, in order to continuously increase in it, ulehizchazik bo, and to strengthen in it. Ve'yimtza behem in hara, and if he finds things that are evil, oz yizboyin v'yachker b'sichlo, he should analyze and dissect in his mind, eze tachbula yasa, what strategy he can do, lasur min hara hahu v'litoher mimenu. Alright, so what strategy he can implement in order to move away and purify from this evil. Okay, so I mean this is simple, but it's just beautiful in the way it is structured, right? And beautiful because it's just very clear and concise structure. So step one is have a general, what's the word? Analysis. General analysis, step one. Step two is don't do anything if it doesn't fit to the results of general analysis. And again, when is that? That's time of action, not at the time of action, right? Not at the time of action. You go back. This is not part of the general. I know my general analysis. Now I'm off the time, not in the heat of the moment. I reassess whether what do I do, whether that fits into the thing that I called the general, that I decided in the general assessment. Analysis, not general assessment. Right? So there's general analysis, there's general assessment, and then there is immediate assessment. Let's call it like that. So general analysis gives me my master plan. General assessment asks me whether the general things that I do fits into the master plan. And immediate assessment asks me whether the thing that I'm about to do fits into my master plan. Part of the general assessment, which is looking at the things that I do they fit into my master plan? Part of that assessment is what do I do when I discover that the things that I'm doing are not good, right? That some of the things, again, it could be 65% good, 35% not good. What strategies am I going to accomplish in order to uproot the thing? Because here's the thing, it's very difficult to, once a person is set in a certain way, right? Let's call this status quo. It is very difficult to remove a person from that status quo. It's crazy because it's very. I find myself doing the same things that I told myself I'm not going to do Erev Rosh Hashanah and the 10 days of Aseret Simei Tshuva. I find myself back to those same patterns in a lot of ways, right? Because there's a reason, right, why those things exist. It's right because the way the life, again, one of the things that I find problematic is because our life is always on the run. It was always on the run. Bracha acharona sometimes becomes a big problem. Tut pakushal, tam pakushal, pabijal, got distracted. Before you know it, I never said bracha acharona, right? So you tell yourself, okay, there's no way. Every time I eat, no matter what, I will say the bracha acharona right away. Okay, you can tell yourself, again, in your general assessment, when you're back home and you're not realizing, you can tell yourself, okay, that's my master plan, that's what I'm going to do. But again, when it comes to B'Shas Ma'isa, the same pattern reasserts itself. Some distraction, something else, there's a reason why those patterns appear, right? So now it's much more difficult to, that's what I'm saying. So that's what he's telling us. Don't just identify the problem and say, from now on I'm going to fix this problem. No, because if the pattern exists, you probably are not going to fix that problem by itself. Because if it's a pattern, there must be a reason why that pattern exists. So he is telling you, so then strategize and figure out what can you do in order to break the pattern. And that's a very difficult thing to do.
Because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
They come up solution. Every time I eat, I go put cider on the table. So remember.
Right.
Don't forget to put cider on the table.
Okay, right. But that's the idea, right? You gotta come up with some plan.
Yeah,
But not every not every plan will succeed. But at least, but thinking that you just relying on pure volition is even more likely not to succeed. Okay, well, let's stop here. Okay.